Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Steve and Jeff. Steve-O.
Yes.
Dim.
Dim, what did you call me?
You dim. Mate, and it's funny because I never get cheat sheets.
Oh, no,
and I got a cheat sheet today, which is funny because I don't normally rely on a cheat sheet. But this one's, you said, Steve, that it's controversial. It
is controversial. We're talking about diindolylmethane, which is a chemical that's naturally found in foods.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you how good it is, and then I'm going to tell you why you probably shouldn't supplement with it.
Well, as I like to say, mate, at the end of the day, if you take this product, you might be a bit dim.
Maybe.
Get it?
You may be. Now, I'm going to also tell you when you can take it, when you can't take it. But
okay. It does have uses.
Does have uses.
But most people that are using it, Steve, they're probably using it with false expectations.
False expectations. That's probably an accurate way to put it. Now, there's not a lot of scientific data on it.
Right.
But there is enough to sort of come up with a philosophy behind it and what you should be looking for, when to take it, when not to take it. But routinely taking it may not be the best idea.
All right. Well, let's start, Steve.
Yes.
What is DIM?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? And what do people use it for?
Okay. DIM is diindolylmethane, which is a chemical it's found in brassica vegetables, so broccoli and those sorts of things.
What else is another brassica, Steve? Like is cabbage?
Cauliflower, cabbages, also Brussels sprouts, those wonderful tasting little nuggets. I can't stand them.
Actually, I don't mind them now sauteed with a bit of garlic if you get them at a French restaurant. They're actually quite delicious. But I remember having them boiled when I was growing up. That's terrible. Yeah.
Now, and who takes it? Lots of people with cancer.
Okay.
And lots of people, particularly with hormonal dependent cancers like breast cancer, prostatic cancer, those sorts of cancers.
Okay.
And what was the third question about that? I think that covered it.
So what is it? Where does it come from? And who uses it? And for what reason?
Yeah, they're the people that use it now. There are other people using it for things like bodybuilding.
And why, Steve? Why would somebody who's into bodybuilding, guys, girls?
Yeah, they both use it.
Both use it.
What I've heard, and I did a little bit of checking at the gym, is that the people, now this is all anecdotal, people that use it because it helps with the detoxification of estrogen.
Right.
Now let's take a step back. Estrogen is a hormone that binds to receptors on estrogen cells in fat cells, particularly subcutaneous fat.
Right.
Which is why women have more subcutaneous fat than men, which is the fat under the skin. And I'm making the boob sign because I'm including breasts in that thing. So. This estrogen is very potent. Breast tissue's got a lot of receptors for estrogen, and so does subcutaneous fat. So, we've talked about drugs that are abused like Aromatase, which is a aromatase blocker.
Yep.
So you get rid of estrogen in the body, and the body sort of dries up, becomes lean and hard.
Well, Aromatase is actually a cancer treatment, and it's used off script by bodybuilders to effectively mitigate too much estrogen production, right? And bad estrogen, like, the toxic form of estrogen, which creates, fat tissue and other water retention and other issues, right?
Very bad one. You get gynecomastia in men.
Yeah.
Too much estrogen is bad for everybody. Too little estrogen is bad for everybody.
Too little estrogen, Steve-O, and there is no sex drive for men.
Correct.
So we need, again, everything in balance. And this is when we hear about people trying to block testosterone, block estrogen. No one's trying to block testosterone. Well, I guess some people might. But block estrogen, yes, I know. Let's not go there. But blocking estrogen, it's actually dangerous. And one of the biggest things that can be caused if you do end up going on hormone blockers is your bones become very brittle.
Yeah, terrible.
And it leads to osteoporosis. So
all sorts of problems. You don't want to block estrogen. You don't want to block anything.
And there are good forms of estrogen. This is the kind of myth that's out there. They're all estrogen is bad. Well, I like estrogen, good estrogen. It's just the really toxic forms when they get out of balance. It's like anything. If anything gets out of balance, then it causes problems. Yeah.
Correct. Now you might have heard of tamoxifen too, the drug.
Yeah, I have tamoxifen, and it's known under other names as well too. Tamoxifen and
that's just the chemical
Nolvadex,
name.
I think.
Yeah, that's one of the brand names. So what it does is it blocks estrogen receptors. So when would you want to do that? Really only if you've got an estrogen-dependent cancer.
And that's it for a very short period of time as almost like an intervention. And then you deal with the problem and then you'd get off it.
Yep. And then we have other things called SERMs. Have you heard of those things?
Selective estrogen receptor modifiers. Yep. And SARMs, and they're different. So that's androgen versus estrogen receptor modifiers. Yeah.
Yep. So SERMs are used for fertility. There's drugs. Like clomiphene. That's used by bodybuilders too.
Right.
And that increases testosterone in men.
Yep.
and increases estrogen and fertility in women. And
so typically bodybuilders will use it after they've used steroids if their natural production of testosterone has shut down to sort of jumps. It's almost like a car where it's run out of juice. So what they do, Steve, actually more battery, to be honest. I was trying to be funny. It wasn't funny. But yeah, they what they do is they it's like, you know, RAQ comes in, they whack on the they whack on the alligator clips. Right?
One testicle each.
Oh my gosh. And then they give you a bump start. It's designed to sort of get things going. Now I like to use things that actually help with luteinizing hormone and stimulate sort of right up the top of the chain.
Blocks estrogen receptors, blocks hormone receptors. So the body thinks it's starved of hormones. LH, FSH come flooding out. Women become more fertile. They ovulate. Men produce more sperm and more testosterone.
Great. So you can use that too. I mean, I like tribulus and I like, you know, tongkat and I like other things, shilajit and what have you.
So there's a lot to these hormones. That's why I'm talking about what these are, because DIM has similar effects in certain areas. But let's start with the positive side of DIM. Okay. Do you want some good news first? Then we'll go to the bad news.
Well, I've never used DIM, Steve, that I can remember. Even way back when it first came out, everyone was raving about it.
Okay. So it blocks the synthases that produce free radicals. So it's an antioxidant. Okay. It also, it's an anti-angiogenesis product, which means it stops the new growth of blood vessels, and that's usually occurring in tumours. So it does that.
So therefore, would it also be non-advisable to give to women that are pregnant?
Very non-advisable. You don't want to give this to pregnant women at all, ever. Unless under normal physiological, because I'm talking about the supplement.
Sure.
I'm not talking about eating vegetables. We know that eating vegetables are healthy for you, and I'll explain why in a sec, why that's a different kettle of fish. I'm just talking about supplementing with DIM. So DIM also blocks nuclear factor kappa beta, which is inflammation.
Okay.
So it blocks inflammation. That's really good. It upregulates estrogen receptor beta. Now, beta stands for, well, I teach my students bones and brain. So you know how you said estrogen's good for your bones and brain? There's two types of estrogen receptors. There's A and B. The B is the bones and the brain. So it's very, very good for serotonin production in the brain and very good for the bones. And so it stimulates that receptor. So the A one is problematic because that can increase breast tissue and all this sort of other stuff. Still useful, but too much is really bad. Now, this information comes from the University of California at Berkeley. It's a diindol information center sheet, and it's fully peer-reviewed and got studies all the way through it. So I'm just summarizing this. Here's something interesting for you. It blocks androgen receptors.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it can inhibit gains.
Yeah, well, it blocks the action of testosterone. So whatever got to remember, for testosterone to work, it's got to bind to a receptor.
Sure.
And then it does its thing.
Okay.
If you're blocking those receptors, is that good or bad?
Well, it's incredibly bad if you're trying to maintain and or build muscle tissue.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get a little bit girly, maybe.
What if you've got PCOS and you've got too much testosterone? You see, this is a benefit.
Oh, okay.
But you see what I mean? It's It's a double-edged sword.
Sure. So would DIM actually help with Hirsutism, other things like that, Steve?
Certainly does.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where, as I said, when I say block androgen receptors, if you block them on the prostate cancer, it blocks prostate cancer.
Great.
So is it good or bad? It's like, well, it
depends on your state.
Exactly.
Right? It depends on how you are.
So this is one of those podcasts that's a bit grey.
Yeah, sure.
You know, we've talked about herbs, which are just wonderful and all this sort of stuff. And this is very dose dependent. A wicked study later that shows you why it's dose dependent and why we've got to be careful about using high amounts of it.
Okay.
Okay, it's antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-cancer. So it upregulates interferon gamma, which is a potent thing that boosts the immune system. So it boosts the immune system.
Yep.
So it can kill cancer cells, virus cells, bacterial cells, all that sort of stuff. So that's good. Too much interferon gamma can cause inflammation, but at the right amount, it's good. It blocks phosphoinositide 3 kinase, which is a second messenger inside cancer cells. So it's anti-proliferative.
Okay.
So early studies, and this is where a lot of this came from, is they get a cancer cell in a test tube, and they expose it to a level of DIM that you'll find in the body. Even if you supplement, you find up to 50 micromils in there, and it inhibits cancer growth. Now that's okay, but even mercury inhibits cancer growth because it just kills the cells. Cyanide is a great cell killer. So you've got to be careful that, I'm not saying DIM's in that category, but cyanide stops the respiratory system. It stops cellular
Oh, that's funny. Cyanide in small amounts is actually found inside apple seeds, Steve. It's also found inside apricot seed kernels and other things like that. So in moderation, I think cyanide was used to use as a tonic. Isn't that what killed Farlap? I'm still interested in what killed Farlap, to be honest.
You know, these Kiwi horses, you got to watch them, eh?
Oh, as far as Australians say, you got to watch them and kill them.
What was it, 1931 he won?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
1930 something.
But they didn't like it. It's like the Australians, you know, the All Blacks versus the Wallabies. It's like, you know, they just don't like the refs' rules. They don't. It's just like, no.
Yep.
Kill them.
I know. So the other good thing about DIM, according to this nice summary here, is it upregulates P38, P21. Now, what they are, they basically reduce cancer cells. So if you smoke, that knocks out P21.
Right.
So, and P53, which are checkpoints for cell replication. So it's got a pretty good, I've just told you some really pretty good a resume around it.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, there's something in this that we can use it for some people. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So we haven't got to who we should use it for. Okay, so let's talk about cancer because that's what we're talking about. There's a paper published. This is published in. It's called the anti-androgenic activity of absorption-enhanced diindolylmethane in people with prostate. So that's a title. It's published 2016. So what they found was when they gave them high levels of DIM, it helped the prostatic cancer.
Okay.
So it helped it die.
Sure.
So it certainly lived up to that original thing. Now, if you read the title of that very slowly and very carefully, the anti-androgenic activity. Now, what if you haven't got cancer and you want more androgenic activity like you and I middle-aged men want? Well, I'm middle-aged, you're young still.
Yeah, I'm middle-aged, Steve.
So I don't want to be going blocking my androgens because I've got a tiny bit left. You know, I'm hanging on by a thread here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You know, it's like I need as much as I can get. I've got a younger wife.
Yeah.
You know, I want testosterone, and men love testosterone. It's good for our health, great for our brains and all that sort of stuff. And this is why women suffer more Alzheimer's disease. One of the reasons if they have less androgens.
Yeah.
So,
we need the androgens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a tablet of this, it doesn't just find its way to the prostate.
No.
And block that receptor.
Yeah.
Blocks them all.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why do people take it if they go to the gym? If that's the effect, is because it helps detoxify estrogen.
Sure, but it's kind of like, what do you say? I don't know really a good analogy, but it's kind of like saying, sure, it does one good thing and does a whole lot of bad at the same time, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
it really is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So, we've got dirty bathwater. Well, let's throw the baby out. You know, it's like, hang on a minute. Let's just throw the whole. No. We need to keep the baby. We need to keep the androgens.
I know. I think it's a little bit of information is dangerous.
Yeah.
That's the analogy I've got.
Look, I've seen, and again, it's like anything, and I'm not going to mention the profession, but this went like wildfire probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And every man and their dog was buying, you know, DIM and oh, yeah, you've got to take it. Yeah. You're going to get lean. You're going to get cut. You're going to be looking fantastic. And it's like, no.
Right. Well, let's say you waddled into the gym and you don't have any knowledge about DIM.
Don't waddle into the gym, Steve. I stride in.
Stride in at 5 a.m.
No.
Oh, okay. But let's say you go to the gym.
I'll waddle into the gym. Yep.
Yeah, you waddle into the gym. And somebody's there and they say, hey, this stuff will not only detoxify estrogen, but it will block aromatase. Now, does everyone know what aromatase does?
If someone in the gym comes up to me and says, hey, I'd say, have you got anything harder? No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't say that. I would not say that. I'd be like, who are you? I don't know you.
I know.
Okay, but if it was somebody that I know.
Yeah. Right. So let's say somebody you know, and DIM's, if trying to sell DIM to you, they say, look, it's got anti-cancer properties. It blocks aromatase, so you'll get more testosterone, less estradiol, and the estradiol or the estrogens you've got will turn down to the healthy, what they call 2-hydroxyestrone instead of the 16-hydroxyestrone. You'd buy it, wouldn't you? Because you're going to end up with,
I'll play along. Yes.
It physiologically, measurably increases testosterone in the blood.
Okay.
But what does it do to the receptors?
Blocks them off.
Blocks them.
So this is the thing. Okay, so you got testosterone floating around in the blood, but if it's got nowhere to go home, what good is it?
It's no good. And that's what I mean. A hormone needs a receptor for it to work.
Yeah.
So if you're blocking the receptors, even if you got 1,000 nanomoles inside your, which is quite a high amount, then you're still not going to get the action because it's blocked at the receptor. It's sort of like having a, I'm an amateur radio nerd, so I've got a very powerful radio, pumps out 1.5 kilowatts, massive antenna, and no one's got a receiver.
Is that an analogy for something, Steve? I got a lot of kilowatts with a big antenna. And I can see what these radio nerds done. How's it going, baby?
I am just trying to.
You should come over and have a look at my antenna.
Yeah. Let's say I'm playing my guitar, because I'm also a guitarist, and I've got a massively powerful amplifier.
Okay.
For my axe, my guitar.
Oh, your axe.
My axe.
Do you call it an axe?
No, I don't. I'm too old for that.
I was going to say, that sounds cool, Stephen. I don't think we're not really cool.
It's not cool, me playing in a band.
No.
But let's say it's really loud.
Yep.
But unfortunately, the audience is deaf.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the same analogy.
Yeah.
You can have all the noise in the world, but if the audience is completely deaf, doesn't matter what you're playing.
Yep.
Whether you're playing Eddie Van Halen like I do,
No. I was going to say, you would not. You'd be like Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm all out of love. I'm sorry.
Even that might be a little bit edgy.
Yeah, just air supply. I'll stick to that. That's the way to go. So it's the same thing, you can pump out all the hormones in the world, and so what they're finding, and what a lot of the alternate doctors are using Dima for, is to treat things like acne or excessive androgen conditions.
Right.
Like PCOS.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I couldn't find studies on all this sort of stuff, but there's a lot of, I'll call it anecdotal evidence, where there's a lot of reports are using it for it.
But it does make sense. I mean, if you've got something specifically that's really bad, acne or PCOS or something like that, and then the cure is worth probably some of the side effects, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now you've got to remember that as I've said, there's some anti-cancer properties in this, and we are eating it every day.
Sure.
It's just dose dependent.
So what's the difference then between getting it from your food, Steve, where you're obviously getting small amounts? I'd imagine, and again, I don't know, I'd imagine that it probably comes when you're eating it in food. Food is wonderful. It has probably an ability to utilize or remove from the body.
Exactly.
As opposed to a drug, a synthetic or a isolated compound.
Yeah.
It's kind of going to go in a bit like a wrecking ball, which is great if you want to, demolish a building.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to, that's the problem. You're getting all the unwanted side effects as well.
So anyway, so Dim is correctly pointed out, if it's a potent one chemical, you've got to know what you're doing with it. It could be very dangerous.
Yeah. And it really should be done with supervision and with someone who's not just some, fly-by-night, 5-minute researcher, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because look, I've just shown you one area of this, but in food, you got to remember when you eat, say, your broccoli for dinner, you're making the chemical in there is like the sulfuraphanes, and it has indole-3-carbinol, which goes into the stomach and then forms Dim.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a step to sort of display, to slow down the production of. Now, if you take and the highest I saw is 900 milligram tablet, if you just take that, then it's going to have a very powerful effect somewhere or other, where, it could block androgens and you just become testosterone, deplete. Well, not testosterone, you got heaps of testosterone, but no testosterone action. Or you could have an abnormal detoxification of estrogen, which could be problematic.
Is there any way, Steve, that you could take something like this? So, obviously systemic treatment, if you've got a prostate cancer, right? And typically the body, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the body sort of almost cocoon that sort of cancer and it becomes difficult to permeate? But if you're taking a tablet, it goes through the stomach and then systemically all through the body, and you're getting a very small amount down there, you're having all the other effects. Is there any way to be able to get the DIM directly to the site?
Not really, unfortunately, because it goes through the bloodstream. Right. So it goes to all the sites. But if you've got, and the studies show this, if you've got a severe prostatic cancer, a metastatic dangerous one, DIM can be beneficial, as well as for breast cancer as well.
Right. Well, obviously sometimes there is side effects, but it's worth it.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. No, look, and you got to remember that the classic treatment for prostatic cancer is a drug that's a gonadotrophin-releasing hormone blocker.
Right.
Now, what is that? That's the one that controls LH and FSH.
Right.
So they often call it
follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. Yeah.
So it blocks pretty much every hormonal production in the body. It's terrible. You feel awful.
Right.
But you may survive the prostatic cancer. That's the treatment.
Yeah.
So it's problematic because you've got to remember, prostatic cancer won't kill you alone. It's when it metastasizes, usually to the bones.
Yeah.
And you get all sorts of terrible things like that.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful.
I'm hearing that, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm hearing prostate cancer is on the rise, Steve, significantly.
Yeah.
And it used to be one of those things where they said, yeah, you got prostate cancer, but you'll probably die of old age, heart attack, something else, right? It's one of those slow burn.
It is, can be.
Not as much anymore, though. I'm hearing that it's starting to become a little bit more,
And there's two reasons for that.
Why?
First one is we're living longer, which makes it because age is a risk factor.
Yep.
But secondly is that we're becoming fatter.
Right.
And fatter older men make more estrogen.
Sure.
And estrogen and testosterone are not very different chemically.
Right.
If you look at the structure, a couple of benzene rings and it shoots off at an angle like that. And you got to remember, it's just one little enzyme to convert testosterone to estrogen,
right,
which is aromatase.
Right.
And so they're not very different.
So I want more aromatase inhibitors, Steve.
You do, yeah.
Right. So what are the best aromatase inhibitors?
Well, the best aromatase, apart from the drugs?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a good aromatase inhibitor, but it blocks androgen receptors.
Okay. Well, it's not that great. So what do we want one that's, so we want to eat plenty of brassicas, right?
Brassicas, yeah, because it has the multitude
lots of cabbage, lots of broccoli, lots of, what else can we eat, Steve?
Oh,
is there anything that's tasty that's not really, because it's funny, and I know what you're going to say, because all of these things are very methane. They're very, what's the word I'm looking for, Steve?
Sulfurous.
Sulfur.
Yeah,
sulfur. They're all sulfurous, right? And that's where we get sulforaphane from.
Yeah.
So, but it has to be this way. Is there any delicious tasting fruit that might be high in it?
Not really.
No.
I mean, the delicious tasting fruits that are good for your prostate, though, are things like tomatoes and watermelons because they're high in lycopene.
Lycopene,
and
yeah.
that has a beneficial effect on the
tomatoes and what?
And watermelon.
Watermelon, okay.
Yeah. They're both fruits. I know people think tomatoes not a fruit for some reason, but they've got seeds in them. They're a fruit.
Yeah.
And so is pumpkin. Does everyone know that the pumpkin's a fruit? I don't know.
Don't know.
We're off topic there anyway. But so very interestingly, what also you could take is a passiflora, a herb.
Okay.
It's got chrysin in it.
I like chrysin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good aromatase blocker.
Yeah.
Aromadex is the drug one, and that's very potent. You only need about 1 milligram a day of that.
Where can you get chrysin from in herbs, Steve?
Passiflora.
Yeah, passiflora.
Passion flower.
Yeah.
So you take it at night to help you sleep.
Yeah.
And helps your androgens as well.
That's cool.
Sleep. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good, eh?
Yeah, it
so
is.
it's got a good little dumb one. I used to give that to help men sleep particularly.
Right.
Because it's a very good aromatase inhibitor. Also, the other good natural one is resveratrol.
Right.
So beer nuts.
Yeah.
It's very high in resveratrol with the skins on it.
Sorry, every time I hear beer nuts, I think of a joke, but anyway.
Oh, can we say the joke or not?
Yeah. I think I've said it before.
Your finger on the button.
Yeah. Beer nuts, they're expensive compared to what was it? Was it beer nuts? Beer nuts, hard to get, but worth it. I don't know. It's just like it could cost you your life.
Yeah,
but better than, what was it? Better than deer nuts, which you can find under $1.
Oh, shit.
That's terrible.
That's all right. That's a good joke.
That's terrible. Anyway.
So beer nuts also has the resveratrol naturally in it, which is a good aromatase inhibitor. But also it's got the essential fatty acids, the omega-9s, which is good for your heart and good for circulation. It's got arginine, which is good for circulation, so it helps the old fella do its job. There you go. Is that
what? Get out into the garden and pull out the weeds.
That's right, and seed the garden. Absolutely. Can we say that?
No,
push the limit.
No, we can't. That's disgusting.
But it's true. That's what it does. And arginine helps with the motility of the sperm. I have to say the word.
You can say it.
All right. Now, what are we talking about? Oh, yeah, we're talking about DIM. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, go back to DIM. Now, DIM's a good one because we talked about estrogen before, and it helps estrogen detoxify down to what they call the 2-hydroxy pathway.
Yep.
And away from the 16-hydroxy pathway.
16, very bad. Very, very toxic, right?
Very toxic, very carcinogenic.
Yeah.
So if you're having it in your food, it's very, very good because you get the right amount of DIM that does that. Now, supplementation, you get all sorts of other problems with it. Now, there is another benefit of getting it out of food. And have you heard of ascorbin?
Is it vitamin C?
It's like vitamin C.
Okay.
And
Ascorbin, I actually haven't heard of ascorbin, ascorbate.
Yeah, ascorbate. Ascorbin is a very potent antioxidant that you get from indole-3 carbinol or eating broccoli.
Yeah.
That has a plethora of beneficial effects in the body. Really, but it's very high. It has a super high ORAC, better than ascorbic acid.
Wow.
ORAC is oxidative radical absorption capacity. So it's a super potent antioxidant.
Do you know what upsets me about broccoli?
What?
Is that it's one of the most heavily pesticided things that you can eat.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to keep rid of it. Is it the cabbage moth? I forget, something like that, Steve.
Yeah, it's pretty
and this is the problem is that I think a lot of the time our food has been corrupted by the significant overuse of chemicals, right?
Absolutely. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It really is.
So yeah, if you can, get organic.
Get organic.
If you can.
Yeah. Now there's a great paper on ascorbin. It's antioxidative properties of ascorbin, which is the long word of it, in using multiple antioxidant assays. And it talks about the beneficial effects throughout the body as an antioxidant. And it talks about also its benefit in reducing oxidative stress under pretty much any condition.
Right.
So, you've got free radical stress because you've been exercising a lot. This is beneficial for you.
Yep.
It's great if you're trying to protect your cells against aging.
Right.
It has, free radicals are associated with aging. It's great if you've got a metabolic disease like diabetes. It stops those advanced glycosylated end products. So it's very, very good for a plethora of reasons, also wellness. And if you take DIM instead of broccoli, you won't get this chemical.
There you go.
Yeah. Indole-3 carbinol turns into DIM and this chemical.
Right.
Okay?
Wow.
Ascorbin. So ascorbin is a very potent antioxidant that you're missing out on. And now let's say you want to take DIM, okay, for whatever. Indole-3 carbinol will give you this and DIM.
Then why not take indole-3 carbinol?
Yeah, if you're going to take one of those things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Potent anti-cancer effect too.
Yeah.
So really, they compared it to ascorbate and it's vastly better.
Yeah.
For antioxidants. So,
and as far as supplementation is concerned, then Steve, as far as a supplement that you're looking for, what compound would you look for?
I would look for indole-3 carbinol because then I'd get that and I'd get the rate-limiting enzymes that are associated with DIM as well.
So, and above that, what brassica?
I would go for broccoli and Brussels sprouts.
Broccoli sprout powder.
Yeah. Well, they're superfoods. Absolutely. If you want supplementation.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the broccoli sprout powder. It's terrific because it helps with that estrogen detoxification and not just detoxification but management. You get that management. You get the antioxidant effect of this guy. So you get the two for the price of one.
And this is where also we like the combination of combining some of these things, Steve, as you say. One is to push, the hormone down there. The other was to help to detoxify and cleanse it, clear it. So yeah, that's very interesting.
It's a really, really good one. So try and look at ascorbin, and that's a really good supplement. Now, going back to DIM, there are some less researched effects of DIM. Now, we talk about blocking estrogen for weight loss. There was a study done on mice.
Right.
Okay, they gave them loads of DIM and it reduced the formation of new fat cells.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But then there would have been no muscle.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's sort of like, really, really problematic. So again, it's a sort of, it says here in the paper, keep in mind human studies are needed. So there is that benefit that's involved there.
Yeah, you're still not convincing me I want to take it, Steve.
Not convincing you. If you've got severe acne, it says here DIM supplements are sometimes used to treat hormonal acne.
Look, Steve, I appreciate it with skin conditions. We always say start inside out, but could you create something that was topical?
Oh, maybe. I mean,
would it work?
Well, topical treatments for acne are not new.
No, I know they're not, but typically they're based more on antibacterial, right? But could something like this work or not?
I don't think so because the hormone receptors are in the comedones, in deeper.
Yeah, okay.
The topical use they use is benzoyl peroxide, which is an oxidative.
Well, if someone came to you, Steve, and they had acne, would you recommend this or would you give them another course of action?
I'd give them another course of action.
That's exactly right.
Firstly, this may block androgen receptors, so it may help them. But firstly, why have they got upregulation of androgen receptors in the skin? You treat that.
That's right.
It's usually a high sugar diet, which stuffs up, which drives up insulin, which
suppresses the immune system.
Too many problems.
Yeah.
Also, they can be having hormonal foods like dairy, which is full of hormones.
Yep,
of course.
and again, even if you start with zinc as well too, that can help massively. So,
it reduces 5-alpha reductase zinc.
Yep.
So you stop that potent androgen, the dihydrotestosterone testosterone being,
which is the one that can cause pretty bad skin.
Absolutely, and balding.
Yeah.
Don't mention that. Also, it may reduce hot flashes.
Hot flashes?
Yeah. They call it flashes in America.
Do they?
Yeah, I call it flushes here. I think it's more of a flush.
Flush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's just anecdotal evidence and case studies.
Yeah.
But, again, you're not addressing the sort of underlying pathology of it.
Yeah.
It helps with PMS, they say.
Right.
Again, more
PMT in the States, I think they call it.
PMT in the States, premenstrual tension, yeah. And it may correct estrogen imbalances in men. Again, that's an anecdotal evidence. So there's 2 papers released on that, just case studies.
Yeah, right.
Where they found that men experienced better symptoms and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Now you got to wonder about this, because if you're taking DIM and you're getting benefits from it, there's something blocking that's, there's something else going on. You know what I mean? Because it does have an interesting blocking effect on androgen receptors. So, I'd worry about that. It's like someone. It's like, to me, it's like the smoker that feels better after a cigarette.
Yeah.
Because they're addicted to something or something else going on in their body, in their brain. So I'm a bit worried about that.
Yeah.
Now I've got a paper here. That this is when all this was discovered. Now, it says plant-derived diindolylmethane is a strong androgen antagonist in human prostatic cancer cells. And this was published in 2003. So since 2003, we know that DIM is, quote, the first example of a pure androgen receptor antagonism from plants. So it blocks androgen receptors throughout. Now, it blocks prostate cancer ones as well, but it's a interesting one that blocks all the androgen receptors, so very problematic.
So my understanding is that people typically, unless they're very unwell, unless they've been prescribed by a naturopath or an integrated doctor or somebody, DIM is probably not something that I'd recommend to anyone. And so for people who are out there that we've called DIMwit, Steve, which is just believed, obviously, what some PT has said about, hey, take DIM, you're going to get shredded. Yeah. You're going to be losing gains massively.
Well, absolutely.
You're going to be blocking the androgen receptors. You're going to, effectively really screw up your system.
Sure.
So I guess the take-home message is that only in very select areas and only through really somebody who is a practitioner should you be using DIM.
Exactly, and there was just one more point that they came up in this paper where they gave them they gave, now this is an in vitro test, so it's in like a test tube, like a petri dish thing. Now what they did was they took breast cancer cells, human breast cancer cells, and they exposed them to concentrations of DIM that you'd find in a supplement.
Right.
And they found that it actually stimulated the growth in the absence of estrogen. Okay. Now, what does that mean is that if there's no estrogen floating around or very low estrogen, you give them a DIM at concentrations, then it can stimulate the growth of those breast cancer cells.
That seems like an oxymoron.
Well, not really, because DIM binds to and blocks androgen receptors, so it may have a mild estrogenic activity.
Okay.
At a low dose, at supplemental dose, I should say. So they match that dose.
Wow.
So yeah, so very interesting, and this was published in. You're going to love this one. It's published in Cancer. 2014. It says low levels of
2004?
2014.
14.
It says low levels of diindolylmethane, or DIM, activate estrogen receptor alpha and induce proliferation of breast cancer cells in the absence of estradiol. That's the title of the paper.
Wow.
Now, I mean, so I'm not misrepresenting the study there.
No.
So now, who has very low estrogen? Postmenopausal women.
Sure.
And men.
Yep.
So it now activates the alpha receptor. Remember in the earlier studies, it was just the beta, which is the brains and bone. Alpha is the breast.
Yep.
So that's...
and that's where you want good. I mean, postmenopausal women, I'd be recommending things that increase luteinizing hormone, such as tripulus, such as tongkat Ali, ginseng, such as shilajit,
yep.
And then utilizing things like chasteberry, and broccoli sprout powder,
yep.
And a diet that's rich in brassicas and leafy greens to get your B vitamins. That way, you're going to naturally enhance and increase estrogen levels while detoxifying any of the estradiol 16, which you don't want lots of that.
Definitely not.
But you're getting lots of your good estrogens, which is going to look after your bones, your mental health, your hormones.
Yeah.
But yeah, DIM's not good.
That's a bit scary, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just published, it's published in BMC Cancer.
Yeah.
And it says, conclude, and I'll read this again. Well, I won't read it again. I'll read the conclusion word for word. We documented an unexpected effect of DIM on cell proliferation, which is to stimulate the growth by inducing estrogen receptor alpha signaling pathway. Importantly, this proliferative effect of DIM appears with potentially physiological concentrations that can be provided by taking supplements. That's a concern, isn't it?
That's a massive concern.
A little bit of concern. So you got to remember that most humans have estrogen. So if you're a young woman with prostatic cancer, that probably won't.
What?
Oh, sorry, young woman with breast cancer. I said young woman with prostatic cancer.
I mean, I know that they're trying to say this now, Steve. I'm not quite
I've started it.
subscribing to that camp just yet.
Not me either.
But yeah. Yes. Okay. Breast tissue.
So a young woman's got load of estrogen. It's really, this is for the postmenopausal woman that has a very low estrogen, which breast cancer affects mostly postmenopausal women because it's age dependent as well.
Sure.
Isn't that interesting?
It is very.
And I mean, so, if you're starting to mess around with DIM, just as you've ordered it from a guy at the gym, or you've just went to the shop and bought some, and it's not widely sold. I had a look for it. You
it used to be more popular a few years ago. We did do a bit of an expose on it a few years ago, sort of calling it out, and I think that might have helped to sort of, which is good, Steve. I mean, again, we're here to help people, right? So,
well, it blocks androgen receptors and stimulates estrogen receptors. It doesn't sound very promising, does it? Like not just the beta receptors, the alpha receptors, as that paper recently, a more recent paper pointed out. So it's a little bit concerning. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you don't
be warned. Stay away.
Yeah, unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're an older man with advanced prostatic cancer. I'd consider it.
Yeah.
As a practitioner, I'd look at the person and make sure that that's a possibility. But I just wouldn't. I'd go indole 3-carbinol and get the ascorbate acid and all that sort of stuff, that beautiful antioxidant. So I'd be very cautious about using DIM unless you know what you're doing.
If you were, Steve, if you were somebody that had prostatic cancer, would you use maybe a cold pressed juicer with like brassicas in there? What else would you put in your juice?
I'd make sure there's something red, like lots of lycopene.
Yeah, like tomato paste sort of stuff.
Tomato paste stuff, not tomato paste on a pizza. Right? It's very concentrated.
Yeah. So that's for your lycopene?
Yeah,
exactly. What else would you do?
Okay, I'd go off dairy.
Yep.
Grains.
Yeah, good one.
Stuff.
Nice one, yeah. What else?
Strawberries.
Lots of strawberries.
Lactic acid is
you could put some strawberries in with your tomato and your brassica. I mean, it would give it at least a little bit of sweetness.
Oh yeah, I mean we've got to make if
would you put blueberries in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Potent anthocyanidins. The other anti-cancer foods I'd put in there is pretty much any of the leafy green vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like spinach.
Spinach, absolutely. Yeah. I put spinach. I'd also put flax seeds in there.
Okay.
Yeah, good source of oil, but also flax seeds contain lignans, which once digested by the gut is anti-proliferative.
Okay.
So I'm getting this concoction together, and I'd also put things like
it wouldn't taste great, but it might save your life.
Oh yeah, and I'd put peanuts in there
with the skin on.
Yeah.
Would you just eat the peanuts with your drink?
Yeah,
that's what I'd do.
Yeah, I'd eat them because they're bloody nice, aren't they? You have to take this yucky tomatoey taste out of your mouth, don't you? Oh, I don't like tomato juice. I love tomatoes though. It's weird, isn't it?
I don't mind tomato juice, but I like a bit of vodka in there, and that's probably not what you want.
Bloody Mary, yeah.
But I think in terms of, but that could be a good thing. Anything else?
Well, that'd be a pretty wicked shake, I reckon.
It might not taste the best, but I mean, maybe just load it up with a bit more strawberries.
Yes.
You probably only need a teaspoon of tomato paste.
Yeah, and I'd also cut up apples with the skin on.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
that's very potently anti-cancer.
Apple a day.
Apple a day keeps doctor away.
Yeah.
But the skins are very high in polyphenols.
Yeah.
And they're very anti-carcinogenic.
And if you can get the seeds, Steve.
Yes.
I'd keep the seeds in there as well too.
Why not? Just cut the whole apple up.
And what about maybe some apricot seed kernels in there as well?
Oh yeah. That'd be good. It must make a nice noise when it rattles around in the Thermomix.
Yeah. Well, not the seed, the actual, if you open up the seed, the actual kernel inside, you can also get bitter almonds as well too. I'd take the apple seed as well, throw it all in there, and
We could do a podcast on this.
That's interesting.
I mean, because there's so much to it. There is so much to it. You know, we talked about before on previous podcasts about eating the rainbow. You know, that sort of all the different colours you can get is so good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just for your cancer, but it's great for everything.
Yeah.
It's terrific. But certainly with DIM, as we keep saying, don't be a dimwit and just take DIM for the heck of it because you've heard of, watch this internet guy, this guy, and I know this guy and he seems to know what he's doing. He's really big and buff. And it's like, bro science is not ideal.
But some people might be seeing us on the internet, Steve. They might be seeing us on YouTube. Yeah, don't listen to those guys. Just listen to us.
I'm quoting papers. I've read out titles. They're the things you look at because they've tested them on people.
That is true. And the papers that you've read out, and we'll put them in the links below as well too, so that you can obviously have a look. So in terms of this as well too, Steve, was there anything else? Because I want to move on.
No, let's move on.
All right. So FAQ and subscriber one is Steve-O. You ready? Okay. So this one, Jessica Buttergeek, can you guys, she asked a question. Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. Can you guys, can you get addicted to artificial sweeteners in the same way the body gets addicted to sugar? Also, does the body get addicted to natural sugars in the same way as processed sugars? Essentially, I'm conscious of becoming addicted to Coke Zero Diet Cokes, as I often drink them at work, sometimes to curb hunger and sometimes just to have something different to water. Thank you guys. Keep it up. Always love your work. P.S. Can't wait until Shapeshifter Nutrition has more no-way bars in stock in the UK. Do you have any UK stockers? Might have to move back to Australia to get them soon. Thanks, Jessica. So obviously Shapeshifter is our distributor over in the UK. Unfortunately, with the bars, we've got such high demand here in Australia that we're having difficulty in shipping them overseas. Secondly, because we don't use any preservatives in the bar as well too, they have a relatively short shelf life. So this is why we say fresh is best on the bars. We are working on the life. Once we get over 12 months, then we might be looking to ship some over to the UK. But unfortunately for now, they're only really available in Australia and maybe soon in New Zealand as well. But apologies. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, we've got a fantastic bar called a No Way bar, which is made with body balance, collagen, all natural, 20 grams of protein. So that's what Jessica's talking about. Steve. Interesting question. And we are going to do a whole breakdown on this in your FAQs on gut health. Steve, we're going to be talking about, and this is coming soon, we're going to be talking about in one episode, we're going to be talking about the impact of alcohol on your gut, what that does. We're going to be talking about medications on the gut. We're going to be talking about travel. What happens when you go into a plane on your gut? We're going to be talking about is it T helper 17, Steve? T
helper 17,
and what that does in the gut.
That's our immune gut. General
does it make you bigger? Does it increase girth? Does it make you fatter? So we've actually got a called your FAQ. We're excited because we're getting a lot of questions on that, so that's going to come. But could we do a little snippet now, Steve? Just a quick answer on this one.
Sure, you want to answer this one?
Yeah, let's start this one.
Okay, can you get addicted to artificial sweetness in the same way the body gets addicted to sugar? I would have said no about a year ago, but now we're now seeing. You got to remember, artificial sweeteners haven't been really tested for addiction.
Right.
You know, but you can.
I think there's a psychological addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to get to.
Right.
There isn't. No, that's all right.
Yep.
When people talk about addictions, I'm thinking usually dopaminergic. Now, when you eat sugar, you get a dopamine rush to the head and you get serotonin in the head. So, you know, and this is where you hear the word comfort food come from. Like people eat a lot of carbohydrate.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you see the old movie where the teenage girl breaks up with
the teenage boy breaks up with their significant other. We're not sexist.
And then the teenage girl slash boy goes home and eats a tub of ice cream and complains to them. And that's what it does. It increases brain chemicals, serotonin, dopamine. So
you feel better.
You feel better. And people think, well, that must be good. But you get addicted to that feel good. You know what I mean? Like addicted to going to the gym, like you and I. You know, we just So now, of course, artificial sweeteners don't have that effect. But you got to remember that some artificial sweeteners, like aspartame, break down into amino acids, which can cause stimulation in the brain. There's a receptor in the brain called the NMDA receptor, N-methyl-D-aspartate receptor, and aspartame activates that. and that stimulates the brain. So that's where you get a bit of a buzz off the artificial sweeteners that are neuroactive. So yes, aspartame you can. Now Diet Coke, Diet Zero does have aspartame. In Australia it does. She's in England, so I'm not too sure about England. But you can become addicted to the physiological sweetness, the aspartame, but also the caffeine in there too.
And it's funny, you know, Jessica, we hear a lot about people who are obviously trying to mind their calories but get bored of drinking water all the time. The first thing is that I only drink water from Tambourine Mountain. And I know that sounds very posh, but I do it because I cannot drink tap water. But coming from New Zealand as well too, where we had a lot of quite clean water, the aluminium and the chlorine in the water, oh my gosh. And we've got pretty hard water here in Brisbane as well too, which also is not particularly nice. But I love it. And what I do is I've got a soda stream. And what I do is I don't put any flavour in there, but I just put bubbles. If you drink too much, it can obviously, the bubbles have got to go somewhere. But having said that, I actually find that really, really refreshing. But there are other things that you can do as well too. Maybe using non-nutritive sweeteners that are natural, which have been shown not to be negative on the gut health. Things like stevia and thormatin, Steve, and erythritol. Now, erythritol is technically a sugar alcohol, but it doesn't have a negative impact on the gut. It's actually from grapes. It's actually found from they take the I think they ferment it and they take the alcohol from the grape, Steve, and that's what they use for erythritol. So not all artificial sweeteners are bad. The synthetic ones we're definitely finding, especially Ace K and sucralose and
there's aspartame.
Aspartame. There definitely seems to be a lot of information coming out, and I think there's going to be a smoking gun moment, kind of like cigarettes in the next few years, where they come out and go, hang on a minute, and there might be lawsuits and all the rest of it. So just watch that space. But yeah.
When I'm at work, I never drink water either.
What are you drinking, Steve?
Can I say?
Yeah.
All right. It's Beauty.
Yep.
And
clearly it's not working. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
And also branched chain amino acids. Zeus juice.
Cool. So and a lot of people do that. So they might take that and sip on it. I mean, I like taking branched chains only specifically straight after a workout. But we've got cordial based ones like the Beauty, which is cool. I mean, you've got really nice compounds in there as well too, like astaxanthin. You've got Verisol, which is a type of collagen in there. You know, and without making any claims, hyaluronic acid without making any claims, because we can say this.
We don't know what they do, but
it may improve the appearance of your skin.
That's it.
We are allowed to say that. So, but it's a nice tasting drink and something that's got good antioxidants in there. There's nothing nasty in there. So, you know, that might be something that you might want to consider, Jessica.
You know, like I'm sure you eat well, Jessica, if you listen to the podcast.
The other thing I was going to say on satiety, Steve, and this is a big one. Obviously, food. Fiber's a massive one. Leafy greens, eating things like legumes and stuff like that can be really, really beneficial.
Sure.
Other things that can be really helpful as well too is things like oils. And this is where we found a lot of benefit around one of our products, Amperage. And people take that little dropper, and that can actually help with satiety. In fact, using oils can be beneficial as well too. Again, not over the top, but small amounts of oils and things like that can help.
Absolutely.
I like grapefruit too, Steve.
Yeah.
Naringenin and grapefruit first thing in the morning, I think can be beneficial as well.
Absolutely, So make every post a winner. You know, make every drink a winner. You know, instead of having some of those things, have some of the things that I'm drinking right now. They're good for you.
Yeah.
So what I'll eat is I eat good, and I might as well drink good as well.
Yeah.
And
then you can look good. Keep trying.
I already look so good, it's hard to improve on it, I guess.
Everybody knows that's a joke.
Yeah. Someone's listening to that going, God, he's
vain bastard.
Yeah. But I'm absolutely kidding.
Yeah.
I'm very old and wrinkly,
but we still love you, Steve.
Yeah, everyone loves me. You know, it's all good.
And lastly, we do have a new YouTube subscriber. I sit there and I just wait. Like all night and all day, and then I see someone. And last night I was watching, and now, Steve, that I'll take a word and I'll trample all over it.
Me too.
People often ask me, "How do you pronounce your last name?" And I say Deutsch, which is very boring. But if I want to spice it up a little bit, I could say douage or douage. Yes.
Yeah.
But, because why not? You want to feel a little bit special, right?
Absolutely.
So I think this is Penelope Locke.
Yep.
But you could be saying that it is Penelope Locke.
Oh, absolutely you could be.
So Penelope Locke or Penelope Locke, get in contact with our team downstairs, and they're going to send you out a free gift.
Oh, nice.
A little thing. So yeah, so reach out to them, either info at ATP Science or jump onto the website and let them know that you're famous and appreciated for subscribing. So thank you very much.
Well done.
Yeah.
Penelope. I'm going to try and
Penelope.
That's
So you can say to your friends now, even ATP Science gave me a new name. I shall be known as Penelope.
Some people call me Stefan.
Do they?
No.
Oh.
They don't. I wish they did. It was great. Actually, when I worked in a plant where they didn't speak much English, I got Stefan.
Oh.
Yeah, it was good.
Stefan.
Yeah.
I got, hey, bastard. Hey, Kiwi.
Hey, Kiwi. Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. And we'll be back next week with more ATP Project.
See you then.